everyone, welcome to this episode of Context is King. I'm Rebecca Brayton, and with me as always is WatchMojo founder and CEO Ashkan Karbasfrooshan to discuss hockey, because we're Canadian. No. Is coaching having its MeToo moment?
Well, not in a sexual manner
No.
and context, but yeah, I think sunshine exposes all, scrubs off everything. Yeah, absolutely. I think before Me Too, it started, I think, in Silicon Valley and venture capital community, where there was an individual in particular, but then there was a Me Too sequence where it was like investors that were misbehaving in many ways, but manifested through basically like pay for play. I'll give you money if you have sex with me. So clearly you don't want that. And then Hollywood, which we always talked about, the casting couch and all that, and we always tolerated, it seemed, like bad behavior and diva factor because it was Hollywood. But then the sex abuse, all that kind of blew up, and we said we're not going to tolerate that, even though some would argue nothing's changed, and frankly, the victims are the ones whose careers have been actually more hindered than by and well.
I don't know about that actually, because Mira Sorvino's come out, and I think I haven't seen her in much.
Okay, but Mira Sorvino, isn't she the cousin, the niece? She's the daughter of Paul Sorvino. She's the daughter of Paul Sorvino.
Yeah, no, but
I confuse her with who.
No.
But I think if you're part of the establishment, you're fine.
No, but her career had been derailed, and now she's coming back.
So I take that back.
Because of Weinstein.
I will say that I think if you are part of like that four horsemen of shit, like Weinstein, Bill Cosby. We have that spectrum, right? Aziz Ansari, Louis C.K.
I really don't like putting Aziz in with those
But
other
it's
guys.
a spectrum. So Louis C.K. is here, Aziz Ansari is there, Weinstein is here. This is like the devil zone, and Bill Cosby is here. We talked about Gian Gomeshi. Gian Gomeshi is probably somewhere between Louis C.K. and Bill Cosby, and then that's all like going down into hell. But let's be honest, I think apart from those three, I'm going to guess that most actors and most Cuba Gooding Jr. just recently was accused of fondling and shoving his hand down a woman's pants. Like, my point is, I think Hollywood has bigger issues that are not just sexual.
I don't think it's Hollywood. I think it's just the world.
You think it's society? Okay, fair enough. But in sports, which is what we want to talk about, and we took a big-ass Ash-style detour, obviously.
Yeah, Ash-style is right.
Ash-style is right. I think in sports, one of the reasons, despite my decent skills as a striker, one of the reasons why early on in my career I was never into pursuing sports, but also joining fraternities and doing a lot of this was the bullshit culture. That's really what I want to talk about. So I'm not putting this in the same bucket as Me Too, sex, and all that. I think for the longest time, especially hockey, because it's cold and it's Canadian and it's so stoic and whatever, but also football and baseball and probably soccer, football, cricket, crochet, whatever, all sports, there's been so much tolerance of this kind of bullshit culture of hazing and putting up with bad people getting away with bad things, and that cycle continues where then you were hazed, and then so you haze the next generation, and it trickles down to where a lot of good people say, I don't really want to do this. Coaching fundamentally has been the one place where it's like discipline and military, and that's also the thing. Respect the people in the military who sacrifice. Would never want to join those organizations because don't want to use BS culture with military and offend half the population. But those cultures where bad leadership skills and tactics and techniques are kind of used to indoctrinate people just leads to a lot of then kind of post-traumatic stress disorder that then comes out in different ways. So in hockey, about 20 years ago, there was the Sheldon Kennedy, Graham James sexual abuse, which started to talk a little bit about the shit that goes on in coaching, but it was really contained more to sexual abuse, which is a crime, which is horrible. I think where society then kind of drew the line and they didn't kind of go all the way and say, well, what about mental abuse? What about that time when the coach ridiculed somebody or what happened in hockey was also racial
Yeah. So, okay, who are we talking about? We're talking about Mike Babcock, got fired from the Leafs, but he wasn't. I
No,
don't know,
Mike Babcock's problem was he basically, forever, was a kind of crazy person. But because he was putting up performance, then people kind of let him go.
Steve Jobs.
Yeah. What's crazy about Mike Babcock is he was only let go not because he was like a horrible human being, apparently, because the Leafs sucked and the Leafs weren't doing well. And between
we just want to say that
between like Bell Media, BCE, Rogers, and the Tannenbaum Capital, like you have like billionaires upon billionaires that they're like, we owe them $25 million, but we make that's 3 data month plans, so we'll get rid of him. And then after the fact, Mitch Marner came out and go, yeah, in my rookie year, he kind of asked me, what's the list of like hardest working to least hardest working? And then the next day he took it and he kind of read it out loud. Now, Babcock was like, well, I wanted him to kind of look at good, positive role players, but that's bullshit because you actually read it out loud. You read it out loud in front of the whole locker room, so it's kind of bullshit.
Is that the worst thing, though? Like, does that compare to, like,
No, it's fine.
I mean, it's not great.
No. It's bad, and it can be effective in a certain way if the Leafs suck and they have all these players, but the problem is it's not, like, isolated, and then it goes to...
Montgomery?
Montgomery, we don't even know what happened,
at
least as of referring. The gentleman, Peters.
Bill Peters.
Yeah. So Bill Peters is a different story. When he was in the AHL, the American Hockey League, he basically went up to an African, well, no, it was a black player. It was actually African American since he was from Nigeria, I think, originally.
I don't know.
Born in Nigeria, went to or born in Poland, whatever. But ultimately, he was playing rap music. And he literally went up and said, like, enough with this N music.
Just look it up.
Yeah, which is horrible to say. Now, you could make the same comment, enough with this rap. Well, I love rap. You could say enough with this rap bullshit. And he even said, end this and end that. Like, I'm not defending it, but my point is, if it's just that, he apologized, you could view it as isolated. But it's not isolated. That is the most, like, flagrant thing amongst a series of continuous behavior, which I call bullshit culture. I, as the coach, instead of like actually motivating in a positive way, I'm going to break you down, make you feel like shit. Who cares if you go home and you beat up your girlfriend and then like 3 years later you stick a hockey stick up some 16-year-old kid's butt, or make this guy drink to the point that he dies. That's what I hate. I never, like when I was at college, every fraternity was like, why don't you rush, pledge, whatever. And I was like, I have zero desire. I'm going to drink more than all of you tonight if that's the case, but I don't want to do it because you're forcing me, right? I remember one night there was like these frat boys showed up and one of them was like, his dick was out. Now, he was an impressive guy for all intents and if I was that guy, I understand why I would want to walk around that. But I'm just saying like
That's a crime.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Imagine you're like a young 17, 18-year-old.
I was flashed.
Yeah, that's it. Imagine you're an 18-year-old
It was impressive, but it
girl.
was still offensive.
Very different when I say it. But,
fine, whatever.
But you get my point, that I'm like, forget the whole, like, I got 2 daughters or 11, but yeah, I got a daughter 11 and 9.
Yeah,
and
but
I'm
also, like, human beings, it doesn't matter if you have kids. I don't know, sorry.
And I know that makes me really boring, but like even my wedding, I remember at my bachelor party, they all wanted me to take to a strip club. I was like, I don't want to pay a woman to dance for me, or you, like.
Whoa, this took a turn.
But the point is, I may be a bit more, I'm definitely not a crude, but like my point is, there's a lot that as society we've accepted that then lead to why we have a bunch of ineffective, ineffectual, weak, post-traumatic stress disordered individuals, and you can't separate it. It's all of these behaviors of the boys will be boys, I'll let it be, including that somehow for a decade it was okay that a coach used the N-word to a player whose turn it was to play music. Or, and also like I alluded on the FU show, I was speaking to a lot of my peers who are, let's say, entrepreneur founders, and who also had like dabbled in sports. And believe it or not, for those who have the skills and are athletic, the persistence and drive to pursue athletic career versus entrepreneurial is not that different. You're very competitive. You're competitive to the point of being maniacal. So we were all like, yeah, that's basically what we put up with at an early age, some younger than other, and what we said we're not going to do that. And it's also one of the 2 or 3 reasons why entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs is because 1, you don't get the opportunities. 2, you see crappy leaders. And I believe that. It's not just why do employees leave companies? They don't leave bad companies, they leave bad bosses. Yeah, that's partly true. But it's also why do you eventually do your own thing? Because you're like, I don't want to be led by an asshole. Like, this is not the way to run it. So I'm very happy. I'm not happy with the extreme cancel culture where, like, Mike Babcock, I'm fine if he gets a job at some point, and he will. He will learn, and I think you have to forgive people. I don't think it's fair for people to pay the price and then be shunned by society, because then none of us are going to do anything by and large. So I like what's happening now, which is saying, no, we're going to come down and say, we're not going to tolerate this. Go out the same way that like a prisoner goes and pays their debt to society. Go in for a year or two, be the butt end of a joke. And if you realize that you can't do that, come back and maybe get a second chance. So just to be clear, so it's good that we're flushing this from society, but if it wasn't like a crime, Weinstein, Cosby, even the N-word, as wrong as it is, I don't know him enough. I don't think that that coach should never coach again. You know, I think it's more that it's not tolerable and he should pay the price. But I don't think as a society we want to banish people because of indiscretions that were also reflective of society and their upbringing. Because then I think it's just, I mean, it's not a popular thing to say, but it's not a crime.
No, because you're making excuses for people.
Me?
Well, if you're saying they're a product of their time and their upbringing.
No, but he's going to pay the price. If like he quit, I'm sure the Flames organization was like, look, if you don't quit, we're going to have to investigate, and then there's going to be a lot more. I know how this shit goes down. They're put in a room, and they're like, here's 2 letters. One is a resignation letter. One is, like, our lawyers telling you what to expect, and one of them involves you being blended in, you know, a big vat of not good. It's just, I'm being candid. But I also don't think that from a leadership position, these people, I'll tell you why actually you don't want to do that. This is why. Grant James, the sexual alleged, not even alleged, like the criminal there, got a job in Europe hidden. Now he's a criminal, he should go to jail. But if you don't let these guys who just had indiscretions that were not illegal not be able on the surface, then they will go off the grid, coach others, like that's what they do, right? And then they can get away with more shit. So it's a lot better if they are back in society at some point where you make sure that they don't repeat that. I'm not telling you what should be. I'm telling you how things work and how decisions are made. Somebody's going to need another white coach that is recycled from job to job to job. It's a little bit of a joke, but anyway. Little related.
Ash with the hot takes.
No, I'll give you a little related thing that the white coaches that are recycled when, like in the NFL, like the black coaches have to give like 57 hand jobs to get a job interview. So apparently, in the Golden Globes, none of the broadcasters got a nomination. It was mainly the streaming platforms and all that. Okay. And a lot of people on Twitter were like, oh, it's funny yet that like a decade ago, it was like Tim Allen, one bad sitcom, then gets canceled, goes to another. And it's that whole kind of like, you know, the circle jerk that is life. So that's my point, that like,
I'm glad Tim Allen's the face of that.
There you go. But my point is, somewhere at some point, somebody's going to need a coach. And it's better if these decisions at least are made out in the open so that you could watch and ensure that like once they've paid their debt to society, that they are not, that they are given an opportunity to remedy and make goods. Now, and if they don't, then you could banish them for life. But
I don't know. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you next time.
I will never be seen again on Context is King after this episode.